Hello everyone, this is Miriello. Welcome to San Diego Cycling Public again in coordination with San Diego Design Week. I am going to speak today with Sylvie Foncek from the San Diego Bike Coalition. I went to Imperial Beach where she was working at a community outreach stand in IB to talk about cycling, San Diego, the Bike Coalition, and ideas that they are using to help grow and strengthen the community of cycling in San Diego and Northern Baja. So I actually learned quite a bit, I hope you will as well, about the kinds of things they're doing, particularly in the COVID environment, to take advantage of this new appreciation and interest in cycling. Here is Sylvie Foncek. With San Diego Cycling Public, I am with Sylvie Foncek. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is you can tell us a little bit about your background in cycling, what the role of the bike is in your life, and the job that you do now, and how it might affect the public. So let's go one at a time. Why are you involved with bicycles?
I basically studied bicycles in school. I did a thesis on the role of women in bike collectives, and then I've had a lot of jobs coming out of college kind of in bike shops and in bike collectives and as a guide.
Wonderful.
And I just found this amazing community that I wanted to keep giving to.
Great. And Sylvie, the other question I had for you is the work you do with San Diego Bike Coalition. What's your role and what's your position, and then when you do it well, what's happening that's better?
Cool. So at the Bike Coalition, I am full-time focused on education. I manage all the grants that we get, and I do a lot of event planning as well. But what that looks like, especially now with COVID, is being really creative and adapting to find ways to get new people into cycling, and especially focusing on people that we don't think of typically as cyclists. So we do a lot of online classes lately, but that's become bike yoga and bike painting, and it's become bike safety and things that people don't associate with bikes. But I think that kind of multiple intelligence connection between something that's fun that you would do anyway and then pulling in bikes as a component of it is a way to get new people seeing bikes as an option.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's a lot of fun.
Because we're doing these for San Diego Design Week, and people might think, what do bikes have to do with design? Well, there's an example right there. You were redesigning how the bike plays and mixing things together. That's a design process.
A lot of people that didn't think of themselves as cyclists who have taken up biking. And because of that, I feel like it's this amazing opportunity to connect with those people now, get them, I want to say hooked on cycling, but it's mostly just, make it feel like biking is accessible now, and it will continue to be accessible even as things change. I think especially now, in this moment, what it is doing is adapting in a beautiful way. So the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition was founded in 1987, and it was focused mostly on advocacy and connecting, avid cyclists and cycling clubs to give them a space to make changes in the city. What I think it's evolved into, though, is it's really focused on, again, these people that we don't think of as cyclists, and getting families and women and BIPOC folks on bikes and making it so cycling isn't just something that people do on weekends. It's not just something that's easily accessible to kind of an elite and privileged class, but instead that the stigma of who is a cyclist is gone. We get people involved in public meetings to make changes in the city. We do a lot of classes, and then we also do a lot of big events.
Sylvie, the other question I have is, can you help us as San Diegans get a better idea of how we're doing? How is San Diego doing in terms of adoption, support, integration of the bike into our city compared to other cities?
Big advocacy group called, I want to say People for Bikes, and I feel like I'm mixing up that name, but it's something like that. They put out the top cities based on bike accessibility and how many people use the city and how it's been designed to accommodate bikes. I know we showed up as 8th on that list at one point. We've moved way down that list now. And also, I don't think it means a whole lot because, if you go out and ask people if San Diego's bikeable, I think a lot of people would say no. They'd say the climate's fantastic. They'd say depending on the place you live, it might be bikeable. But I think it's still intimidating because, just like LA, we have this huge culture. It's all about vehicles, and the city was designed, to accommodate freeways. Yeah. And unless we give some of that up, it's going to be tough to make it also a bikeable city.
Are there one or two things you might mention that people could do if they wanted to support cycling? Now, I guess they get on their bike is one, but maybe we can give them more information about what is going to make us collectively a stronger cycling city, and what individually might they be able to consider doing?
Yeah. Well, I think that actually is the ideal place to begin. You know, if we see more people on bikes, it makes the city feel accessible by bike. And that's only gonna, multiply how many people choose to use a bike when they don't have to. So helping to normalize bikes by, the like brave people we have now getting out and setting the example is a huge piece of it. Definitely, going to city council meetings and showing up when the option to put a new bike lane is on the table. And I think also education is a big piece of it, because it's not just about the cyclists making a change, but it's about anybody who's using the roads seeing it as a space that can be used by people walking, biking, skating, and in automobiles. And so, what I'd love to see is more people that don't bike that often, but those kind of people getting into some of the bike education classes we do and finding out what it actually means to like be in a vehicle and be kind of sharing a space legally and safely with a cyclist.
Yeah, it's a really good point, because when I cycle, I know drivers who have been on a bike before, and drivers who have never been on a bike.
Yeah.
They have no awareness of how they're coming across or the danger they might be creating. Those who ride are much more congenial and understanding.
Yeah.
So you have to walk in those shoes or ride in those boots, I guess. And the last thing in that, is there an organization that they should be aware of? If you were a citizen and you wanted to spend the minimum amount of time having the maximum amount of benefit or impact, what organizations do you think are worthwhile?
So when it comes to bike stuff in San Diego, definitely the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition is doing a lot with advocacy and education and putting on events that show the public the benefits of biking. Bike SD is focused on a lot of those same ideas and ideals in downtown San Diego. And then a lot of the local cycling clubs do a little bit of advocacy, but also, by helping to grow those clubs, it makes cycling visible. And so I think that's a piece of it too, is getting involved in a cycling club, which can be intimidating and, can be it can be a big step to join a club, because you gotta have, the bike and maybe the kit, and you gotta have the time, you gotta live in the place the club is. But we also have some really cool inclusive clubs that, bike casually, they don't bike in spandex, and being involved with any of those communities, I think, is a good place to begin.
As you probably know, there's going to be, if everything goes well, a San Diego Community Bike Center in Liberty Station in Barracks 191, and your San Diego Bicycle Coalition is going to be a partner in that and probably manage it. So the question I have is, we're a long way from opening any doors there, but if a center like that was going to happen, and does happen, I'd like people to understand what it could mean to amplify cycling or to a cyclist in San Diego.
Yeah, I think cycling to a lot of people is all about community, which is why the Bike Coalition began. It was about connecting all the clubs. And I think moving ahead, cycling is about, well, at least in my life, is not just about the community of people on bikes, but it's the people that could potentially be on bikes. And the big goal in my life with cycling is to get families biking, so that it's the way that you take a kid to school and the way that you go and pick stuff up. And it's not about speed and it's not about distance, it's just about getting places. So to have one space that is focused on all of those people, instead of just a bike shop, which is mostly focused on fixing bikes and often sells a lot of these kind of high-end bikes that do not feel as accessible to folks. To have a space that's not about selling stuff, that's instead about connecting, I think would be an amazing way to connect them.
Where does the understanding get passed along? It can be a little intimidating. This place could offer maybe a more neutral zone to get to learn. Can you tell us, where are we sitting right now? What is this space in IB? I don't know about this.
If you've been to IB, a couple months ago, this didn't have any bike lanes. This was something that people would shoot down at 50 if they could. We connected with as many businesses as we could locally and asked them to submit questions. And so we had a couple of, folks who do teach yoga classes in IB that put in photo and video challenges involving doing a yoga pose, in some scenic place. And we had so many families and individuals join, and it was massive. This was a way that people could post photos and videos so you can see who's doing it. You have to get to know the town you live in a totally new way when you do it by bike and by foot. and it invites you to find things you just wouldn't even know to seek out. So, you know, one of them was someone has a bush that they have shaved in the shape of an elephant. I think that's on Holly Ave in IB. And so the clue is just like, you know, find the elephant bush. And people had to go off and bike until they found it and then, you know, take a selfie with it. And I have these amazing photos of so many families posing with this fantastic bush that someone in IB, you know, took the time to make, which has benefited the community in this sweet way.
So tell us one more time, if people want to participate in something like this, how do they do it?
Well, we have one coming up again in August. It's going to be August 12th, focused on Mid-City this time. So it's going to be, you know, 10 plus miles of challenges in Mid-City. You basically, the best way to find it is go to the Bike Coalition's event page, because that's the place you can get all the details. But to do it, all you have to do is download an app called Scavify. But I think we'll just keep doing them because it's getting a lot of people excited about getting out. So find the Bike Coalition's event page and you'll see what we got going on.
So Sylvie, you mentioned to me bikes are business. What do you mean by that?
So people that use bikes tend to save money because they don't have to pay. Like, I mean, a lot of folks in the city do have an automobile as well. Yeah, it leads to, like, you know, an actual like connection with businesses. That's not just I'm pulling up and going in and getting my thing and I'm leaving because I'm going to
It used to be that bike businesses would be very irate when they would take out a bike lane and put in, a traffic lane and put it in a bike lane because they would lose business.
Yeah.
What they've actually found is it slowed the pace of traffic down, where people would stop, go slow, get interested, and buy more.
Yep.
So it actually was counterintuitive. So it's a similar example to what you're talking about.
No, that's totally it.
Sylvie, thank you very much for all your words and also your contribution to cycling and also to San Diego as a community.
Thanks so much.